Welcome to the Five Phenomenon Podcast. I am your host, Shane Hazen. Coming up, this is our year-end episode, which I have dubbed, and everyone else has went along with this naming of it, our annual Richard Lester dinner, which is, first off, I'm joined by Ted Haycraft.
Yes.
And Aaron Smith.
Delighted to be here, Shane.
And this used to be a tradition of ours where I would come home from whether I was living in Los Angeles or Atlanta for Christmas to visit family. One of the last things I would do was the three of us, maybe whoever else would join, would go to IHOP and we'd catch up on what we watched for the year. And we'd usually stay at IHOP until the sun came up. But it was basically our way of doing our top 10 list, which now that we're recording this and we're not in IHOP, maybe next year we'll be in an IHOP, but not this year or last year. But this is our way of catching up on the year, guys.
Yeah, and of course the reason the Richard Lester is because I brought up the theory that he may be the godfather of the modern music video.
You say brought up as you did it one time and only one time.
And Aaron and I have gone to blows.
This happens every year. Every year.
So anyway,
without fail, every year.
But anyway, I don't want to make this a Richard Lester podcast. So moving on.
I'm so touched to hear you say that. I think I need to clip that out and put that on at the beginning of other episodes when we do talk about Richard Lester. First off, let's go ahead with how did you get anything cool for Christmas? Did you watch anything cool recently, Smith?
I do not get anything for Christmas because I was bad again this year, as I usually am. This week I watched The Harder They Fall, the Western on Netflix. It was solid. I felt like
that's a music video director, right?
And it wasn't bad. I didn't dislike it, but it's getting a lot of acclaim, and it just felt like it wasn't really that strong. I mean, I'm not saying that obviously if you like westerns or even
westerns are going to come up on this episode too.
It feels like Django Jr. to me. I felt like it had a heavy influence from Django, and so if you like that style of western, then certainly I think you may enjoy it. And it certainly has all the violence of a western, so it has a lot of the elements that you would expect from a western, but it just didn't work as well for me as I'd hoped it would. But it was good.
Ted, when did you watch this recently?
Well, the most recent thing in the theater was Red Rocket. I was really surprised it showed up in Evansville.
I still haven't seen it. Really want to see it.
It's by the guy who did Florida Project,
Sean Baker.
And didn't really know much about it at all, and really went down well. Good character piece, and the actor playing the main character.
I was going to ask, did you even know who the actor was? He was like was he MTV star turned porn actor?
Yeah, I really didn't know much about him, and he pretty amazing performance. And
I still need to see it. It's shot by Drew Daniels, who I edited a movie that he shot previously. He's an amazing cinematographer, so I'm really looking forward to see it. I guess I brought up the Christmas thing just because I'm the only one that had a movie related Christmas present I wanted to talk about.
Which was
my family knows to go through my Amazon wish list for. And so they got, my brother and my mother both got me the J.W. Rensler, The Making of Alien, the first Alien. And if you aren't familiar with these giant coffee table books, J.W. Rensler, he did a Star Wars trilogy, Indiana Jones, Aliens, and Planet of the Apes is the only one I don't have. But he died this year in July. These making of books are by far the greatest making of books. You get through these books, you understand how how human beings made these movies. Sometimes it seems like storytellers are touched by the gods. These give you day-to-day showing of the first Star Wars books has this really cool sequence where that legendary screening where they showed De Palma, Spielberg, all the USC crew or whoever, supposedly an early version of Star Wars with the World War II footage and I think the planet score instead of the temp score with the planets and King Kong and stuff in it. That has the most detailed description of what really happened instead of all the Brian De Palma hated it and went out to eat Chinese and then rewrote the crawl stuff. This has the actual moment to moment, everyone's real reaction. Rensler's, it's a loss.
Well, and you got a nice coffee table book on David Fincher for me.
I did get that just now too.
Yes.
My watch was on TCM. TCM had these Christmas movies where they were movies you just didn't know took place during Christmas or were related to Christmas. The Silent Partner, which is from the late '70s. It's Elliot Gould movie. It is a it's been suggested to me a lot recently, and it's a missed thing. It's an early Curtis Hanson screenplay. Which what's the Curtis Hanson movie that Steve Guttenberg was in? He directed that.
It's
something window. Yeah,
the window that cracked or
open window. They have a lot of similarities. There's a plot point early on with, but that overlaps between two. Even though I think they're both adapted from different books, but but Christopher Plummer in the movie is just.
I don't know anybody that hasn't seen it doesn't love it. It's just like an overlooked, really cool little gem. Later day Elliot Gould film that when he wasn't the box office hot commodity that he was at one time.
And we don't know exactly, like, there's that period where it just feels like he like mini retired in the middle of the 70s.
Yeah,
like I'm just going to do SNL episodes.
Yeah, and so it was a strange, and then a performance by Christopher Plummer. You're never going to imagine your life seeing Christopher Plummer play this part. It's a great part. When he died on my rest in peace montage on Facebook, it was either a shot of him as Santa Claus or as in drag.
Which is, in both those instances, in this performance, he does these long, methodical stares, and then he speaks slowly with a lot of pauses, and they're just intimidating pauses. And it's amazing. But
yeah, it's a Canadian project. I remember it actually showed
Toronto.
up.
It was so weird. It took me a while to realize it was Toronto.
Yeah, and I saw it. I think Theater A played it here in Evansville, and I just remember coming out of that going, "Wow, that was a really tight, cool thriller that everybody needs to see."
Okay, you mentioned Red Rocket. What I want to do is I want to jump around. So every year, disclaimer, Evansville, we missed out some movies. So I haven't made my list of what I didn't see. Do you guys have the list of what you guys didn't see?
This is what I was reading off the bottom here.
Go ahead. What did you not see? And I'll just try to chime in on
Pig.
Okay.
Licorice Pizza.
None of us have seen Licorice Pizza.
Cyrano. The Hand of God, Coda, Lost Daughter.
I've seen Coda. I've seen Lost Daughter. Smith and I've seen Lost Daughter.
The Tender Bar.
Tender Bar is supposed to come up on Prime like in a week.
But it's already been in the theaters.
Yeah, and it didn't come here.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came up on Christmas.
I wonder why they passed. You had the trailer up for it.
It went up on Christmas.
But you know how that goes.
Drive My Car.
None
of us seen Drive My Car.
The Velvet Underground.
It was so close to seeing that.
I thought you saw that.
It's on Apple.
Tragedy of Macbeth. Titan E, Annette.
Titane was the one I thought was going to be really excited. I thought would be really high on my list if I seen it.
Souvenir Part 2, Bergman Island, The Story of Film, A New Generation, Tick Tick Boom, Benedetta.
Still need to see Benedetta. It's on VOD right now.
The Power of the Dog, The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne, Come On, and Memoria.
Smith, you have about a top 20-ish.
Roughly.
Okay, I have a top 20-ish. My actually I have a top 50, but my lists are ever since Letterboxd came over, I just put everything in order of preference, and I think 20 is a good stopping point for me. But Ted, you decided to do your own Oscar categories.
I wouldn't say Oscars, more like the Teddies or something. I don't know, the Ted Mans.
Oh, I would definitely brand it something around you.
But it's
the Ted Boys.
Well, yeah, and it has to deal with this disclaimer. Living in Evansville, it is just it's hard being a hardcore Cine East, and want to see all these great films that you read about in Sight and Sound, and I think now, of course, streaming's helped modify that a lot.
We should definitely make the disclaimer because the top 10 lists, or I think we talked about this last year on this, where they're just that weird. They're press generated. Before we were talking about the difference between U.S. and UK release dates, festival release dates versus actual theatrical release dates. Whether a shelled film that was supposed to come out in 2019 or 2020 is release date in 2021.
The pandemic really made a mess of that too.
Yeah, exactly.
And the like Sean Baker, we mentioned earlier. Tangerine, what is it? Tangerine. That was when it came out. Wasn't a big top 10 film, or a lot of people.
Yeah. And
that's still one I haven't got around to because it didn't come in Evansville back in the day, and then I just haven't caught up to it yet.
Yeah,
so
it might still be on Netflix. It was on a Netflix stable for a while, but But let's go ahead. Start. Ted, how many categories do you have? Do you know?
I didn't count them up, but we'll try to zip through them.
Why don't you do 3 for now?
3 for
You
now?
do your first 3.
Okay, like I said, it's not what I did. Basically, I went to my film journal, which is it's my paper version of the Letterbox. If you ever want to see what movies I watch, there on Letterbox, and I just went through everything that I saw in 2021 and made these are the ones I wanted to make an observation about. So that said, the best end credit tag.
Okay.
I'm gonna butcher this name, but it's the Mauritanian.
It's still the Mauritanian.
There
you go.
Jodie Foster, about a guy that was put in the Gitmo for, and he wasn't really guilty. And I'm sorry, Shane, we're going to have to do this, but we're bringing Bob Dylan into the conversation early.
And I am committed to good audio quality. Otherwise, I was going to bang my head against the microphone.
It's typical of these biofilms nowadays, almost to a fault. Every feature film, biofilm always ends in the end credits with the pictures of the real person. And where they are now, or various shots, and this shows him like getting married and what happened to him once he got released from prison. But there's one sequence he just I don't know, they stick it in here, and I can see why. He says he's at a desk in an office somewhere. He starts a tape or iPod or something, and starts playing Bob Dylan's "The Man in Me." That, if you might remember from The Big Lebowski, is the opening credits song of The Big Lebowski, and he just goes,
That's the song?
Yeah. The Man in Me. That's the Man in Me.
But that's the one that gave you a tearjerker moment?
Yeah, because it's watching him listening to it, and he goes, "Oh, Bob Dylan," and he starts singing, and he'll like emphasize phrases like, and I'm not a machine. And I just sat there after you've been through this whole ordeal with him, and he comes out and he just puts the joy of a Bob Dylan song.
Let me ask you this, Ted. If someone were to film someone listening to Blood on the Tracks for an hour, how would you react to that?
Probably, but I'm just saying, if he had put
that
a band more,
pretty great. We should work on that.
I think
Man cries at Blood on Tracks.
Ted cries during Blood on the Tracks.
Oh no, a Simple Twist of Fate's coming up.
Yeah, just add an audio track of. To it.
Oh no, that's all it is. You're just gonna hear the headphones barely. You're not gonna
openly.
You're not gonna hear the album. You're just gonna barely hear the album through the headphones.
But I mean, he could have been listening to something from Van Morrison or Joni Mitchell or anything, and I probably would have got teary-eyed over it. Or it just the joy.
Okay, another version of this: a biopic listening to a song you like. A biopic ends with a real subject listening to a song you like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it really trust me. I think
you
might not be as moved as I am.
We are being reductive about this.
You might not be as moved as I am, but I think you'll see the sweetness and the joy in this little sequence, and it's the end credits.
Smith,
I do think, though, it's because you have a built-in relationship with the Dylan and that album. So it's like, it's Man and Me, obviously, as Dylan fans, we know it's kind of overplayed, mostly because of Big Lebowski. But New Morning's a great record.
Well, see, she didn't realize it was from Big Lebowski. I think
I would know I didn't recognize. When I was in Big Lebowski, I just didn't put title with song. So yeah, I didn't. That's why when I recognized the song, I was like, that's not a sad song.
I know it's not a sad song, and it's a song that nobody would have. It's a song that never would have gotten attention. It wasn't.
I listened recently to a podcast with David Chase. We've done multiple episodes, I feel like, now on The Sopranos or David Chase, but. He was talking about there's a usage of Dylan in the final episode of Sopranos, and he's talking about it. And Michael Imperioli, who's hosting the podcast, says like, "Oh, that's such one of my favorite scenes of the whole show." And David Chase is like, "Well, you just put Bob Dylan over anything; it's going to have an effect."
Okay, I'm into that.
Smith, I did want to point out, we're going to be on both of our lists. My favorite. Maybe not tag, but credit sequence, or one that like got emotion out of me, is Mitchell's versus the Machines. They have the cool thing where it's a embarrassed by your family movie, and so the credits come up and it's all the family photos as children of the crew, the cast and crew.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that type of emotion, and of course, we're trained from these Pixar films. They can really, you can react with them, and they can touch you in a way that. Any type of film, an animated film, you can get that same reaction from any standard film as well. So that one worked just as well for me emotionally, and it was surprising because I thought that had been shelved. I know it had been shelved twice, And when it came back, I wondered if, because some other studios, like with Luca and several of these other animated films that played this year that were in the can, the studios held on to them because they had a lot of money invested, and certainly they felt like this could perform well. Even Clifford and Tom and Jerry, which are not good films, the studios held on to those later and actually had a theatrical release. Mitchell's versus Machines didn't get that, and
Sony sold it to Netflix.
Right. Well, but I think that was actually second wave when they sold it to Netflix, because it was shelved for pandemic, and then it had a post-pandemic release date as its original title, and then got sold to Netflix.
We're going to definitely talk more about, because it's on both of our lists, especially the animation style. But did you see Encanto?
Yes, it was also great.
I do still want to see that too.
Yeah, it's really great. Disney, honestly, and credit where it's due. I realize they own everything, but they're on another, like mini run, like they had their second wave with Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and where the quality of their animation.
Is this post Frozen or like more recent?
Absolutely,
years?
But then obviously Big Hero 6. There's been several of the Disney studios, not just. And I know a lot of people want to lump in Pixar now with Disney Studios animation.
No,
because,
I would keep them separate. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of
the post,
people that
the
are
post
working
last
for
of their
both
ones are the outliers, I think.
But Disney is actually making some really solid work, and Encanto is very, very good. I highly
Manuel
recommend
Miranda's going to come up in this episode a few times too.
A couple times.
Ted, your next category?
Needless film of the year.
Why?
And
why are we doing this?
Because you'll see why.
We're just telling someone not to put creativity out in the world.
No. I mean, for me, it was just like after I saw it, it's just like, okay, did we really need it?
Go ahead, say it, and then we'll
Zack
react.
Snyder's Justice League. Did we really need that?
Okay, but you got a reaction out of you, didn't it?
You saw both versions, right?
Yeah, and I didn't mind the Whedon one. I mean,
the Snyder version was an improvement.
No,
you did not think the Snyder one was an improvement.
I just thought it was apples and oranges.
Okay, that's not unfair. I can see that
because there's stuff in there.
No. I think the Snyder one significantly. It's just more coherent, and even as kind of stupid as it could be, it just gets
you get the I mean, in terms of coherent, you get
you get a singular vision on it.
They're doing what they should have done in single films, building up to, the Justice League film. They're still compacting everything into that.
But you're basically a don't release the Snyder Cut hashtag.
No, not at all. And I watched it. I got the Blu-ray. I mean,
was that a needless purchase, Ted?
Well, most of if my parents were alive, they'd say yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm certain if the Snyder Cut comes out first, there's not going to be a campaign to release the Whedon version.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, there was no. Joss would never been hired.
Well, the Whedon one's just kind of like an unfortunate. Like it seems like too many cooks. No one was happy with the final version.
Right. And but I'm not, and Shane, come on, I'm probably the most non-negative person when it comes to cinema. I mean, I remember somebody, I can't give black and white answers to usually people ask me after I see something. Usually it's like, well, Aaron, you always talk about that.
No, I agree. I think Ted is one of the people that I always use an example, because even if he watches a film that he really didn't enjoy, he will come out and tell me, I really like the costume design. He will always find something positive about even in poor films. I think it might be interesting to make Ted do a worst 10 list.
Oh my God, that's a great idea, actually. I not to contradict myself, my oldest Ted story about movie watching is you coming out, I won't say the movie, but you came out and you were just like, it was a terrible movie. And you were just like, that was so bad. But the DVD is going to come out. And there's some interesting stuff in there, so I'm going to have to buy the DVD. Then I'm going to have to watch the extras. And I'm probably going to have to watch the movie again itself.
I know exactly which movie it is.
All right, Ted. What was the next one?
Guy Ritchie doing Michael Mann this year.
Wrath of Man.
I've caught up. I've missed a couple more. I've kind of been behind on Guy Ritchie, but
Smith, you been behind on Guy Ritchie too?
No, I'm right there with the Guy Ritchie.
You watched the Aladdin?
I didn't. I did watch the Aladdin. I would like to bring up I Have Children. So.
Which went to our animation talk.
And then there was the King Arthur one, right? Which I have.
King Arthur one, like I think you and I talked about this on an episode of beginning of the year after we all saw it together, and I was just like, he made a King Arthur, and I was like, I knew about it, but Charlie Hunnam, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I missed The Gentleman. It came right before the pandemic sucked in, and I was planning to see it, and then all of a sudden everything blew up.
Well, it came back and played for months afterwards because there was no new product. You had every opportunity.
You call this his Michael Mann movie, but isn't it just that there's a car-based bank heist in the middle of downtown LA?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, but I think he's not doing the cinematic gymnastics that he usually does, like the Sherlock Holmes films and some of this earlier stuff where, you could tell this is a Guy Ritchie film. And this one, I thought he was tamping himself down and making it more... I don't know, just more methodical. That doesn't make sense, but it just didn't seem the exuberance that he usually brings to a lot of his projects. I think he was keeping that in check and made a really good film. And again, shows me, I think Jason Statham
is Charles Bronson.
Is our Charles Bronson of our era. He's in a good film. He's great, and he puts them to good use. I just really enjoyed it. But okay, the next one is Aaron. I think you might find this interesting. Overlook Indie. Together played at a show place, and I didn't. It's a film I halfway didn't expect to be here, and
it's on Hulu now, I believe.
And it's just no big stars, and
Ed Helms is kind of a big star. I think everyone knows who that is. The Office is probably the most popular television show, I think, right now for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, people know who that is, but no one came to see it, and I think it was because it just got released at an odd time. Plus, it's kind of a hard sell because it's very sweet and it's quaint and it's charming, and I don't know if audiences necessarily react to that type of film.
And maybe
but it was
slightly
really
controversial, maybe just in how you handle that situation. And but I did like the fact that they with your showing, they had a really cool interview, like an extra feature on DVD after the show, where they interviewed the actors and the director, and it was fun.
Well, this goes into I think what we were saying earlier, this is a 2020 Sundance movie. And I think it was supposed to come out a few months after that.
It's been around a while, and I know when it got released, there were no other films on either side of it. So I think that it just fell directly in the middle of the pandemic, and so it really got overlooked. But anyone that would listen, I tried to convince them to at least check it out because I mean, and I still think it's in my top 10 of the year. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's just one of those comedies like The Big Sick or the Best Apatow films where it's got a heart to it. And just really funny. It's just really funny at parts and super charming.
Some issues to think about too. Some issues in real life,
Speaking of your top 10, do you want to start on your top 20?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Don't Look Up. It took me a little while to understand that it was going to be broad. I was expecting it to be, honestly, I don't know why I had expectations.
I mean, you know how we're not spoiling anything out of the end. I think like Hank Corwin's an amazing editor. I worked briefly with him in the past, and the ending is some amazing film. It's really affecting. It really got to me, the ending.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it as well. I know that we disagreed on several of these films that came out this year. Some of these I liked a little more than you guys did. Some of these I don't even know if you guys bothered to see.
Okay.
But I'm glad that we all liked that one because it was, and it wasn't that I didn't have problems with it.
I like the ending.
I didn't necessarily feel like either of the leads were extraordinary, although I love both of those guys. I think Jonah Hill is one of my favorite actors. He's
Mark
always
Rylance
so
is pretty
fun.
amazing in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, honestly, for Leo and Jennifer Lawrence to kind of carry that movie because I don't necessarily know if it's about them. It's almost obviously if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm saying. But it's unfortunate that you put that on their shoulders because they don't really have to carry it. It's or at least that's the way I looked at it. Okay. But yeah, the ending I think is strong. It just took me a little while to kind of get into, the pacing of it, and of course it just seemed a little dumb initially, but it's supposed to be Doctor Strangelove, I think, is what a lot of people
I wanted to bring that up because one of my first reactions was, oh, this is the Doctor Strangelove for our generation.
I think it's trying to be the Doctor Strangelove.
But obviously Adam McKay's not Stanley Kubrick.
Adam McKay's bread and butter is dealing with dumb people.
Yeah,
so it's hard for him to have a like you said, broad is probably what he's going.
But I was glad to see a lot of Aaron brought it up, and a lot of people on social media are mentioning Doctor Strangelove, which is cool because that's just one of the greatest films of all time. Period. So I get that back into the.
As long as a good film references another good film, and people get that.
So.
Yeah, I loved. The House of Gucci, Last Duel, Ridley Scott double feature. I'm just going to put those two together.
Okay.
And, unfortunately, neither one of them did extraordinarily well. I think
our Duelist episode double as the Last Duel episode.
I think the guy behind this, I'm not going to try his name, but the guy behind Gold Ninja Video, I was reading something on Letterboxd. He does these little mini reviews, and he says, "Oh, I think Ridley Scott just gets up in the morning, drinks a little wine, smokes a cigar, and goes, I think I'll make a movie today." And goes out and does and makes a movie that it's solid.
He works, and both of these films work very well. It's unfortunate Last Duel got overlooked, and I listened to that Mark Maron episode where he kind of bitches about millennials. That's out of context. I almost feel like he doesn't really hammer that point. I think that he's a working filmmaker.
Ridley Scott seems like someone when he does interviews. Have you seen that clip where someone talks about he's interviewed by a French interviewer, and the guy's just like, some of your movies are not as realistic, and Ridley Scott, and it's like over a Zoom thing, and Ridley Scott just kind of interrupts the guy. It's like, sir, you could fuck off. You could fuck off, and he just keeps saying.
Well, the other day I just stumbled across a Hollywood Reporter video. It was the year that Hateful Eight was up, and he had I don't know what Ridley had out. Oh, the Martian, and they have a round table, and Danny Boyle was there, and David O. Russell, he's there, and they're all sitting around the table, and it looks, of all the people sitting there, they're all smiling and getting into it, and Ridley looks like, I don't want to be here. Just thinking, he's got this look on his face like, why am I bothered with all this? But that's just Ridley.
I just want to make another movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna just smoke a cigar and do another movie.
Yeah, and good for him. I'm glad that he's still getting the work, and I hope that House of Gucci does well enough that he can keep.
He's gonna keep. I think he'll keep going. But I mean, the performances were also something that because I was saying I was surprised whenever the movie came out that you didn't expect this from Affleck and Damon. They're the best parts, but
all four leads in Last Duel, and I think obviously you get one of the same actors in House of Gucci. But I mean, he's just capturing great performances from and of course, honestly, at this point in his career, Adam Driver and Jodie Comer and any working actor right now, if Ridley Scott calls you or sends you a text, you're going to clear your schedule. So
they just announced Jodie Comer's out of his Napoleon.
I saw
movie.
fell out of that Napoleon. That's unfortunate. But I thought the four leads in Last Duel were extraordinary.
Adam Driver in particular is, I think, just one of our.
And there's another movie referencing another movie, Rashomon. There's a Rashomon aspect to it.
And let's see, that's 2, 3. The Nighthouse, which I thought was.
I saw Nighthouse.
Really nice little thriller. I don't know if it's a horror film.
I know on that. I couldn't tell if that was going to be one of those good horror films or just a churn out.
That's the problem.
Rebecca Hall.
They market it as a horror film, and it turns off some people that don't necessarily gravitate toward mainstream horror films, and it wasn't really that at all. It's really more of a thriller, mystery thriller.
I think Rebecca Hall's good, just choosing thoughtful roles.
That's exactly why I thought I better pay attention to this.
Did you guys see Passing?
I want to see that too. It's on my list.
It's okay.
And let's see where we are. Last Night in Soho. I think you probably liked it more than I did. I know he didn't really care for it. I don't think it's satisfying overall. I don't, but I do think it starts off very strong. And then when you get that first psychedelic sequence, which I think you pointed out, that's when
it's so cool because it's center channeled up into that point, and I was just one of those cinemas back because the surrounds come in when they have their Wizard of Oz moment, goes back in time.
Well, that was really great. And it isn't as if it completely just goes off the rails. It just isn't quite as strong after that. But I think that Thomasin McKenzie, either way, she's in Last Night in Soho and in another film that I really enjoyed this year. She's terrific. I thought that she was probably one of the things I liked most about the movie. And I like Anya Taylor-Joy too, but Thomasin McKenzie really kind of steals the show.
My thing is that I think we're going to look back on this, and without the hype that you normally have for an Edgar Wright movie, I think we're going to appreciate this movie more in years to come.
Well, I don't think that I like Baby Driver any more than I did at the time. I don't know if that's
I'm the same with Baby Driver. This one, I think Last Night in Soho, people are going to appreciate more as the time goes on.
Of course, you got. I see. I got. I'm a sucker. He puts Terrence Stamp in there. He puts Rita Tushingham in there. The needle drops are just me, and Diana Rigg's last performance.
Diana Rigg is really great in the movie.
And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, a little bit of me is this sort of like Peter Jackson doing King Kong, or a few other with or Del Toro.
It's going to come up here in a bit.
They love the subject matter, and they're such a fanboy about it that they get lost in the final product.
I've heard you use the term strangle it.
Yeah, they strangle it to death.
Or they smother it.
And they smother it, yeah. So there's no life in it. But I agree with you. I definitely, I'll buy the Blu-ray when it comes out. I'll definitely check it out again. And maybe I'll do 180 on it. I was back and forth wavering on it,
I'm going to start on my number 20. No Set of Moves, Steven Soderbergh.
Oh yeah, gosh, I wish I'm getting frustrated with Steven. I mean, good for him. He's out there doing all the work. I
don't understand this logic. You're mad because he's putting stuff on streamers?
I just don't have the streaming services.
That's the problem.
Well, that's the problem.
That's not him putting on the streamers is not the problem.
But I want to see the films on the big screen. I love Soderbergh. I want to,
Soderbergh has said over and over and over, content is bigger than format or
well, that's true. Well,
method.
that's so true to me because I'm the one who watches. I don't do all the bells and whistles on my my audio systems and everything like some people do.
He's pointing at me.
No, I know some other people I would mention, but I love I love my libraries. I love the hard copies, and I want to have a complete Soderbergh on my shelf. And
maybe there's gonna be a Netflix thing where like all these come into Criterions. I don't know. Maybe Soderbergh has his Criterions, but this crime movie in Detroit. There's it's uniquely shot. In fact, it's like one of the most intensively wide angle shot movies in a while. It's got a stellar cast to it.
This is the Don Cheadle one, right?
Yeah, right. Benicio del Toro. Yeah, it's got a lot going in it. Number 19, which I think is going to be on Smith's high up on Smith's list, so I don't want to steal too much. We don't need to go too into it, but Summer of Soul. Number 18, which I saw at the drive-in, and I had never seen the original all the way through, but I enjoyed the retake of this fine. Number 18, Candyman.
I'm glad you like that. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really care for it that much. I also don't really care for the original, but I think seeing that at the drive-in is a real good combination, and also seeing that double feature. So I think maybe the experience probably kind of colors how you feel about the film.
I think the turn, because I mean, like I forgot, like the first one is a Clive Barker thing, and this one just like the racial justice component is pretty intriguing.
Do they do a needle drop of Sammy Davis Jr. singing the Candyman?
I don't think so.
You didn't see Candyman?
No.
Oh.
My number 17, we did an episode on, for Mad Men only, the stories of Del Close. Just I mean, it's a great doc. I think the subject is mainly, but I mean, the doc handles the subject, a controversial subject, well too, because Del Close rubbed a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, but he's also still held in super high regard. So, I mean, but I actually think that that was a great episode of your podcast. I enjoyed the subject matter, but I also enjoyed getting to hear an old friend, Dustin Lavelle.
Lavelle's on that one. Yeah, it's an improv deep dive, right? And number 16, The Many Saints of Newark,
which came and went, and nobody saw it.
Well, I mean, Shane saw it, and you and I did not.
Yeah, I mean, and you, Sarah, and you said it was. I was talking to you earlier about that. It was like it did its 2-week run.
It did about 2 weeks exclusively, and it was. I expected, and I know the projections were for 10 to 15 million, and it just didn't get anywhere near that. And I don't think that's pandemic related. I think people just didn't come out.
But it also maybe fell on the HBO Max issue.
That's true, but that didn't affect some other features like, for instance, Tom and Jerry or Dune, which did well domestically.
There was no rhyme or reason what did and didn't do well on the HBO Max thing.
I just remember I just remember thinking it's Sopranos, David Chase. It's got a lot of hype. I've got time to see it. And then by the time I was thinking, what do I need to go see in the theater? And it was gone. I was like, well, crap.
And you know, one of the funniest things about this is I think the original reaction was that, oh, it's an interesting prequel to Sopranos, but I really want you two to see it because I think more common reaction is like, it's just a decent gangster movie. In fact, like some of the ways some people really loved and hated the way it tied in with the series.
Well, I would expect David Chase to do it in such a way that it would play on its own. I mean, he's just too supportive of a creator.
Oh, it totally plays on its own.
Yeah,
it totally plays
so
on its own.
I mean, I had no problem not expecting that or expecting that. I just David Chase. As you know, I'm just the hugest fan of Not Fade Away, a film that seems like nobody knows about still to this day.
We did an episode on it, Ted.
Don't you think though? You are a Sopranos fan. You've seen every episode of the show. Neither Ted or I have seen that, and maybe we were reticent to seek this out or go and see it initially because, or at least for me, I felt like even though I knew it was a prequel, that without having been
you may have put your finger on
it,
why it maybe didn't do as well, just because it was clearly designed to be for people who haven't seen the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it with a big Sopranos fan, and I guffawed in kind of a performative way because I was like, I got that. That's from the show.
That joke was for me.
And then afterwards, I was like, actually, that's pretty obvious what they did there. So, Ted, you ready to read some more of your categories?
Sure. Next in line, most insightful. Okay, again, some of these are tongue in cheek. Some of these are very serious. Some are just random thoughts, and some of them I kind of had a hard time the titling, but it's most insightful documentary. In other words, I saw a couple documentaries. We love documentaries. We see a lot of them. Even a mediocre or a half baked documentary are enjoyable to watch.
Right.
You get to see clips and whatever.
A good premise can take you so far too.
Right. So the two I saw was the Spark Brothers and Summer of Soul. Saw Spark Brothers at Showplace, Summer of Soul at AMC. Two things that I'm embarrassed to say this. I knew about the Spark Brothers. They are in the Valley Sparks. I'm sorry, in the Valley Girl soundtrack, and I go back to that and some other things. I always thought they were English, and I was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
And then the Summer of Soul, that footage, just unbelievable footage of such a wide range of black artists. It's just wonderful.
I want to use Sparks Brothers documentary. First off, I liked Edgar Wright's Joy. I like any documentary where
that's a good Edgar Wright, by the way. I had no problem with that Edgar Wright.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another documentary. Smith, can you think of another one that's trying to sell you on an old artist that like an artist you might have missed out on? Like,
well, one I liked, and it's about 2016, 2017. What Happened, Miss Simone?
Yeah, that's good.
Nina Simone. I thought that was similar, but I mean a lot more refined. But I think that the difference between the artists is the reason that filmmaking is different in the Sparks Brothers. Their music is so different, and obviously Nina Simone is
Sparks Brothers
aggressive in some ways, and Sparks Brothers is really kind of sometimes playful, and I think
it's very playful. It's very accomplished, and it's a long ass career. But the approach Edgar Wright takes is like this, and they just never stopped. They kept going from the late '60s on. So it's like this album is the best Sparks album. And then 4 years later, no, this Sparks. So and then like the next one is, and like every album is the best album.
So you're hoping that you would like actually.
I want a little more honest assessment on like maybe there's an ebb and a flow.
Well, you were unfamiliar with all Sparks music, right? You were coming in completely cold. I knew I think their debut album is considered, I think by most people, their most popular, and it's similar to a lot of that first wave of alt rock, late 70s, early 80s.
But Aaron, rock. Do you agree with what he's saying? Do you think every album is a winner?
Oh no, and I don't. To be honest, I don't know that.
Saying, right?
I'm familiar with one Sparks record, just one, and I know that they have multiple
I can
albums.
even
I'm
buy that there's
unfamiliar
like a
with.
great song on every record too, but like because
Well,
it's
that's
clear.
probably true. I think you can
that's
say
true.
that about like Guided by Voices, like any prolific
Yeah.
artist.
Guided by Voice is a great example, and like you just listen to the songs in the doc, they're great, but like you're just like okay, but there's also some stuff that'd be a little tiring or teeth. I want to bring up the Sparks Brothers documentary to talk about a musical that I didn't fit on my list, but I finally sat through was Annette, which is written by Sparks, and also has one of our great actors, Adam Driver, in it, and.
He had an extraordinary year. And some of these obviously sat in the can, like Last Duel.
Right.
I think that was finished, but he's working. He's a working actor.
Annette was hard to get through, and it starts out with
that director. You're not the biggest fan of that director, right?
I don't like Holy Motors, or as much as everyone else does. Like it's kind of a we always get to this every year where you see everyone else's top 10 list, and you see certain. I'm just gonna say Richard Brody's top 10 list, and he tells you like you get through them, and like there's a certain amount of homework involved with it. And Annette opens with a great song or great opening sequence, and then the rest of it, like Sparks is their playfulness comes with a certain amount of parody of pop music and parodying the pathos of pop music, and so Annette is very, very repetitive. There's a sequence in the middle. That the lyrics are just "We love each other so much," and it goes for like 3 or 4 minutes, and there's some fun stuff in the sequence, but it's just like "We love each other so much" for 4 minutes. And
getting back to what you're thinking about the documentary, I know that feeling. It's a weird thing to do about especially music criticism
in a film documentary,
documentary, or just overall. I'm just approach about it. Oh, this album is winner. This album's a winner. I mean, like, sorry, I have to get back to use Bob Dylan for an example, but like, Knocked Out Loaded, pretty much everybody really dumps on the album since it's a bad album. So it has one redeeming song.
Under the Red Sky is mine. I think that's the one where and I don't know what the redeeming song Under the Red Sky is.
So, but then you actually want to get it because Slash and Elton John and George Harrison, all these guys show up on it. So it's weird. It is kind of
it's a Soderbergh thing where you want to have the collection.
But I agree. It is a tricky thing because it's a love letter to the Spark Brothers, so they didn't really pull any punches.
I don't want to see you a lot for using that phrase, but love letter has been an overused phrase of marketers lately, mainly directors being like, it's a love letter.
Quentin Tarantino once spun in Hollywood.
Well, the one I hear is Villeneuve saying it's a love letter to the cinema. So you're like, oh, so it's a love letter to marketing? It's a love letter to good movies? It's a love letter to...
like Renaissance Man or Genius, all these things are they're overused.
All right, Ted, what's your next one?
After that is Need to Watch Again. Didn't totally dislike them, but I really need to watch them again because I think I'm going to have a different evaluation, hopefully, of them. In the Heights and West Side Story.
If you listen to the last episode on West Side Story, you'll hear me and Ted debate on this of why I wholeheartedly think you really need to watch West Side Story again.
Expectations play into it again.
In the Heights too. I think you should really watch that again. I think they're both very well done.
In the Heights is the weird one here, just because you pick two musicals that are pretty populist musicals, and you think that this is a category for the abstract head scratchers or something.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I'm baffled.
Annette, I would have been more of I need to watch that again.
Well, see, I have a feeling. Here's the weird feeling. My theory is, I'm probably gonna love Annette because
I can almost put an egg timer on it.
Well, you know how much I loved Holy Motors. I just adore.
I don't think I knew that.
Oh, I love that film.
You're gonna like Annette, man.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the best sequences ever in a film is that accordion interlude in the middle of Holy Motors.
I would recommend don't read reviews of Annette before you watch it because there is a little bit of a spoiler that every reviewer will mention.
I have not read any reviews.
I actually haven't read that spoiler, or I might have heard.
All I know is what Shane's reaction so far is. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know why these two musicals and I got a feeling we're going to have to talk about West Side Story more as we.
Yes, because I think it's going to appear on someone else's list.
We can cover it here too, but I think if you have a problem, interacting with In the Heights, like you weren't able to take it in the first time through. The thing with West Side Story is you knew the soundtrack, you knew all the songs by heart, and so that really is your key into it. And I think the West Side Story is very digestible, whereas I think In the Heights sometimes it might take a second viewing. But West Side Story was so good the first time through. I'm not certain why you as a film fan and even a West Side Story fan, because I know that you like the original.
You can listen to our last episode and find out Ted's motivations for not trying to figure it out. I'm actually with you on In the Heights. I got through it, and I mean, maybe there's no familiarity with songs, but it's a clear populist musical that should be a winner. And like, I want to see it again because I liked it the first time too. What's your next one, Ted?
Okay, next one is Most Fun Artsy-Fartsy Film.
Okay.
Can you guess what that is? The showplace at it. The Green Knight.
Oh, okay.
Artsy-fartsy, but fun. I know.
Well, it's funny just because it's a.
You don't think fun right off the bat with Green Knight. Right?
It's a dour movie, but I see what you're saying because there's David Lowery films is a filmmaker who makes films with so much joy.
And usually, a lot of times, artsy-fartsy films are not genre films. This could be kind of a genre film because it's got whatever knights and round table and all that kind of stuff. Maybe, but it's just I thought for something that's kind of highbrow and kind of deep and playing with some issues and stuff, but it was fun because of the visual.
It's playful.
Yeah, playful in a way, intellectually playful. How about that? And intellectually fun or
stylistically playful.
So that was my.
I actually spoke to Shane after he came out of his screening of The Green Knight, and I felt like he really didn't enjoy it.
No, I think you were a little let down. I thought maybe, and I think you said, but you looked at me, I think at some point, and I hadn't seen it yet, but you're gonna like it.
Oh yeah, no, I knew you were gonna like it. Well, I'm talking just about the giant sequence alone, I listened to a podcast where he was talking about his love for Willow and how he wanted to do a full blown glass matte painting for this movie.
Wow!
If he'd had the pre-production time, he would have done it. That's the type of stuff. Like you gotta love the way this guy makes movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you. I'm not sure I love the movie either, but I liked just the environment, and that another film that came out this year that I think neither of you really cared for that I liked quite a bit was Lamb, and I don't think
Isn't
it's
that
satisfying.
Going to come up on your list?
It's not. I didn't put it on my list, and I don't think
coming up here.
I'll
tell you what I thought about it.
It's not satisfying, I think, as a whole, but I just enjoyed being in that environment, and I also honestly. It was a nice, crisp, like 95 minutes. It was a fairly short film.
There's definitely that.
And so
I think the central creature, the titular character in that is a sight to behold. Like that, there's definitely that, and it's a hypnotic thing. Ted, you want to do another one?
Sure. Basically the categories are all made up, but I went to my journal. These are kind of the order I saw them in, so that's why that's kind of the rant.
Interesting.
These films are in chronological order, sort of, in the way I saw them.
Okay.
Except for some exceptions, but next category, my number one film of the year ? As I said, I didn't really make a top 10. I haven't made a definitive list in quite a while.
And I love the question mark here.
Anyway, if I had to make a top 10 list right now by gunpoint, the possible number one would be The Card Counter. Paul Schrader, the God's Lonely Man, lean and mean. This is Schrader to the bone. And I give me more, which I think he's making another one.
Well, that's precisely the issue I had was he's literally calling them God's Lonely Man movies now.
Yeah.
Like his next one is one.
You like that or don't like it?
Starting to make it kind of a
formula,
isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
true. But
First Reformed was one. I mean, he does a light sleeper, and it goes all the way back to Taxi Driver. You have a main character who seems normal, who writes narration, has a journal, and does it in voiceover, and starts doing shittier things halfway through. That you catch the audience with the first half, and then you like disturb the audience how much you're with them with the second half.
Okay, but two things on that. I don't feel like Card Counter and First Reform, they feel like different films.
No, I'll give you that. I think Card Counter is a little more lighter.
As long as he can do that and entertain me, that's great. Number one. And number two, look at it. Paul Schrader's up there at age. He's part of the Spielberg, Milius, Coppola age guys. And I said, let him do the films. Let him do what he wants to do and give him the films. You know, sometimes that backfires. Not like De Palma's last couple of films were, but
Palma hasn't really gotten a shot in the last few years. You ever heard that Gene Siskel measure of if a movie's good, where he says if a movie is better than, say, someone made a documentary of the same actors in that movie having lunch together, that's a measure of a movie's good. And I think that way is if Paul Schrader makes a movie more entertaining than his Facebook posts,
oh well,
then I'm happy.
Yeah, well, they're pretty entertaining. He got knocked off of Facebook as one of his posts. But,
oh man, he put one up. He's put up some this week that are just kind of. Smith, you want to go with your next 5?
Okay, sure, absolutely. I think the both of you should stop eating Taco Bell or whatever it is you ate before your screening of Nightmare Alley, because it's a really solid film, and I don't think either of you really enjoyed it.
Taco Bell has ruined so many movies.
Well, I'm not sure, and honestly, I mean, maybe it was a different day, maybe you'd have a different perspective, but I thought it was a really solid noir, and you know, I've talked about this a couple times with each of you individually. There's a black and white version. I know that that's showing in some major markets, and I know it's a marketing ploy because it didn't really perform well at the box office, but I'm really interested in seeing it in black and white, and that could really only enhance how I felt about it, because I thought it was really solid.
You'd seen the original.
Yeah, but I saw the original, I don't want to say 25 years ago, but maybe it was 25 years ago. It's really been a length of time.
Saw it recently.
I saw it this year, and I mean, first reaction was like, this movie's
for 1948. It's amazing. It's
a great original, but this remake is 45 minutes longer or half hour longer. And it's got
more than that.
And I think it's got less story in it. It adapt the books right.
Well, Del Toro and Kim Morgan are saying that it's not a remake. It's a readaptation of the book.
But the original has more plot in it, and it's shorter.
Well, Aaron, you remember the pain in my face when you saw me come out of there, didn't you?
Yeah,
I was literally in pain.
We were all.
You used the term smother after that.
Yeah, he smothered the film so tightly. It shines. It looks.
I should make it clear: Guillermo del Toro is a treasure of a filmmaker, and we're lucky we have him. And I want him to make whatever he wants. I
do think, in addition to the Taco Bell, I think that expectations were just too high. Yeah, and you saw it before me. Both of you did, and both of you were not excited. Neither of you really had much positive to say about it. So when I got to see it, I was seeing it through that lens, and I just felt like at every step I was like, this is really as good as I wanted it to be, as I expected it to be.
Will our bad Taco Bell send us into a multiverse where Guillermo del Toro doesn't exist, and we have to punish with living in a world without Guillermo del Toro for having been unhappy with this film?
I mean, is this? I mean, this is similar to like Crimson Peak, another one that just looks so wonderful and great.
I heard someone say the phrase "art directed within an inch of its life" to a museum level. And that's more on Crimson Peak than this. But.
Yeah, but what a cast and just
it's so well cast, especially when you compare the original.
I'm thinking of the story. I mean, I want to read I like to read the book now. At some point.
I had a friend that it was funny because the one sequence in the movie that I thought was really legitimately amazing is more towards the end, and I was talking to someone else who had seen it, and they were just like, "Oh, I didn't get to that far. I fell asleep before that point."
Well, I'm very sad. I mean, I want to.
Well, maybe you could put that on your list with West Side Story and In the Heights, with something you may want to revisit. Maybe we should go see it when the black and white version inevitably comes out.
You think the black and white's coming here?
Man, I hope so. I think that'd be really great. Well, that would be the other more or less black and white film that came out this year that is on my list, and I'm not sure it would be on Ted. I think it's on Ted's as well. But we just don't have that many black and white films. I mean, we had Mank last year. There just aren't that many that come out, and I always think that it's a real treat.
That's fair
to see a film. So my next one is Maggie Gyllenhaal's debut, The Lost Daughter, and to use another overused term, I think it's a nice little slow burn.
Slow. Is there a moment where it kicks in?
Fair enough.
No, because I just finished it today, and
yeah, I watched it also recently, within the last 5 or 6 days.
It just went up last Friday.
5 or 6 days, yeah.
Yeah.
Last Friday?
I think so. It took me 3 goes to get through it, and today I read.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again, mentioning Richard Brody, his review mentioned how he used, in a positive way, used the word sluggish because it brings
there
out.
You go.
Yeah, no, and it was interesting because he talks about how it brings out the literary conceit of the whole thing, and that clearly, like, the movie's clearly got a lot of great stuff in it. It was just a push.
Sluggish is actually great. I think you could describe it as sluggish and not mean that pejoratively. And that's totally fine.
Well, like the Jessie Buckley is amazing in it too, and just the cast she got too. It's
well, you would never when we discussed it earlier.
Coleman's the lead, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to say how isn't it just amazing when you see these when an actor is all of a sudden in a hot streak. I mean, it comes out of nowhere, and Olivia's like she's everything and everywhere, just like a driver,
and she's doing it with confidence too. Yeah.
Well, when we discussed it earlier, I actually asked you. I was like, I wasn't even aware, or I guess I was, that it was Meg Gyllenhaal's film debut.
I believe it's
because
her first feature.
I don't know if she's very refined. Like, and I mean, obviously, she's been in the industry for a long time, so you pick up things.
She won some awards
that.
for a script too. It's based on an Italian author, I think, which is why like the literary part comes. Who's been adapted before, so. What's next?
Okay. The Card Counter, which I also enjoyed quite a bit. I always mention that obviously Oscar Isaac, extraordinary, one of our favorite actors, really great.
Yeah.
And then of course the script. It's very sharp.
Scenes from a Marriage this year on HBO was great. And it's a little down for some people, but
you were really taken by Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish. Every time that anyone brings up the film, I always bring up Tiffany Haddish, because it was very surprising. And I thought when, the film comes out, I see the cast list, it feels like stunt casting. I didn't think that she had...
you knew she'd bring a particular type of energy.
I did. And I actually thought that it might not work, but she's so good. And I don't really think she even brings the Tiffany Haddish you're expecting to the film. Like her performance is very subdued, just very strong. It was.
I mentioned this to you before, but Paul Thomas Anderson wants to cast her and stuff, which is always a mark of like someone's ready for drama. Whenever Paul Thomas Anderson wants to cast Adam Sandler,
you go through those, periods in certain actors or actresses' careers where they're getting a lot of work and they're the hot actor. And I mean, I think this might be her time. And, with several roles, I think she could really become a star. She's really got the chops. I was very, very pleased with how well she worked in that film. And I was actually afraid that it wouldn't. But then, with Schrader, it's like you don't really, and like Ted said, just like some of these other filmmakers this year, like with Eastwood and Cry Macho, how much more work are you going to get from Schrader? How much more work are you going to get from Clint Eastwood? And so
the anti-Tarantino argument of we should let these people go out or keep going until they can't go anymore.
I mean, and there's always exceptions. I mean, look at Lou Matt, and other filmmakers. There's as many as have made some really wonky old man movies. There's some really good old man movies too.
Yeah, that's true. Smith, you didn't number yours, but do you want to do
this?
One
is
more?
11, and then I'll have 10 left. 11 was West Side Story, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I had a really good time with that. You mentioned on your podcast last week, 2 weeks ago, it said. About how you felt like the Spielberg version is a lot more visceral. And I mean, that wasn't really what I liked about his version. I don't think it necessarily needed to be more visceral. I think with these beautiful songs, everything's staged correctly. I like that Rita Moreno kind of plays an alternate version of a different character in the original.
That part's amazing, yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't necessarily need it to be, a little more violent, but I was okay with that. But that wasn't...
See, the one of the phrases I didn't use from last week, or the last episode, that I really regretted is that Spielberg's camera in all of his filmography, in his entire filmography, dances. it just moves in a way. It's a partner with the subjects in its frame in a really interesting way, and so it just made so much sense that he would do a musical. And so and we could talk a little bit more about this one because this is going to come up on my list. But the violence, I don't know, further I get away from it, the more I'm like, no, this was needed just because you didn't do that Jerome Robbins dance violence that feels play acted. And like, or I didn't mention this in the last episode, the stabbing in the heart is, I mean, it didn't need to be more visceral necessarily, but that is a visceral moment.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually, anytime that you'd have a musical that seems realistic in areas, and then also, you just have...
It's a dance, if you will.
Yeah. To be honest, I know that you probably revisited the original.
I did.
Right before, but I haven't. I have seen it, but it's been a while. So maybe, my perception will be slightly different otherwise. And I'm not saying, obviously it's 11th on my list. So I really, really like the film. But and I wonder if maybe we liked for different reasons. And not that that's a problem, but
isn't that a sign of a rich film?
It really is, absolutely. And I wonder why our associate didn't like it as much as we did.
You should check out our episode on musical.
I've already got in the category to see again. So I've already mentioned that.
My number 15 film, Last Night in Soho. Number 14, I think it's going to come up on Smith's list, The French Dispatch.
I know that you didn't make a traditional list, but where would that be on yours? Did you think that?
I honestly, it probably should be, and I need to see it again. I was a little dozy, and it had been put off for so long, and delayed for so long, and I just thought, and then by the time it came out, I was just like, I'm ready for the next Anderson film. I mean, it's almost like the trailer. I'd seen the trailer 40,000 times, and like expectations, and it's like you're in Anderson world again, and it was fine, but I just, I don't know. It didn't go down as well as it did with you two guys.
I mean, I can understand coming down from Grand Budapest, which I think is one of his best, maybe, but
yeah, maybe that's the case there.
Number 13 is Shang-Chi, which I think we're just going to come up on some of your stuff, Ted, but this movie was better than the second time, I'll say this much, just because someone had put online that this movie changes every like 20 minutes to a different movie. So like its weakest stuff is its opening. It turns into a heist movie at a certain point. Then it turns into like a kung fu dance movie. And it is a freaking Miyazaki movie.
Well, that's interesting. I just finally realized didn't we talk about this already on the podcast?
I don't think so.
I mean, in regards to something, you're saying it turns into a different movie every time. My reaction, I've been telling everybody, is how start watching it. Of course, it's not my Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Minch, Paul Gulacy Shang-Chi of the 70s comic book. I knew that going in that they couldn't do that.
Right.
There's some problems with that. But it's
we talk about this on our All of the Marvels episode.
Oh, you do. That's it. Maybe that's where we talked about it.
Yes.
But as I watched it, I kept on going, I like this. Oh, I like this more. I like this more. And so by the end of the film, I was really liking it. So I kind of parallels what you're saying.
I think you should rewatch it too, because it was better in my second viewing.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you're saying it's like almost like every different movie. So every time
I think the weakest part is its opening.
Yeah, so every time it changes, I was liking it better and liking it better. I mean that's the reaction I had, the initial reaction I had.
Yeah. Number 12, The Last Duel. We did an episode on that, as I mentioned, whenever Smith brought this up. Number 11, I think he's going to be higher on your list, Smith, too, but Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Which I have not seen.
I had to see it a second time to confirm that I liked it as much as I did, and it turns out I did.
Rewatching actually played really well for me. I think I've probably seen it 3 times now, and it's just it's the best Pixar movie Pixar hasn't made. And I know the animation style is a little different.
The animation style is the more the Spider-Verse. What's kind of the hybrid between two cell 2 and a 3D animation, but it's also got that hyperactive quality where every different frame can be a different addition something can change, and it's not all about consistency. It's more about the creativity because the main character is an artist.
It's a
As a
little more
filmmaker,
fluid.
that's
as
the other
far as
reason Ted, you need to
animation
watch the main
style.
film character is a
Where's the
filmmaker.
streaming?
Netflix.
Hmm.
It got bought by, I think we mentioned earlier, it got bought by Sony, and we.
And obviously,
It was
with-
supposed to be a Sony release.
Yeah, it was.
Or a Sony Classics release.
no,
Oh,
it's
no.
it's an
It's-
animated film, and
It's Lord Miller.
probably-
It's the
Lord
guys
Miller
that did
produced
Spider Verse and
the first Lego.
yeah,
Okay.
great animators. All right, Ted, what's up? What's your next category?
Okay, picking up where I left off. Deserves more attention of all the films I saw. It certainly doesn't deserve to go straight to Walmart for sale. Old Henry, which another podcast. There seems to be a common theme here.
Yeah, check out our Jamie Kirkpatrick Open Range episode. Yeah, we both watched that movie the morning before our podcast. I just happened to know the editor of that film,
which is what you're
Jamie Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
and yeah, it's going to come up. I'm about to get to my top 10. It's going to be in my top 10.
Okay, and was interesting because he says himself in the podcast, as he's working on it, he goes, he knew that they were probably just going to dump it on Walmart. He says,
Well, no, the producers were designing it, or the budgeting it out to be
right.
something to go.
And
to
he goes, this is much better, and they got it out to some festivals.
Yeah,
But it still didn't.
and deservedly so.
This is a weird title for it, but best Bond since OHMSS Under Majesty Secret Service ? No Time to Die. I cannot. And I think
I don't know if it's the best. I just think it's the most emotional.
Yeah, a lot of people say that Craig. Most people say Casino Royale is the better one of all five.
I think Skyfall is probably one of my favorites.
I just couldn't. Shane was there. He saw me just going spastic over the whole film, and I was.
We did our episode on it, and in the episode itself, I try to describe the final moments of the movie, and you and I both choked up.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I might start choking up on that. What you're saying right now.
Oh no, we're choking up over them. Talking about the choking up over the moment of the choking up.
But it's just to me, my favorite Bond film is Honor Majesty Secret Service. Obviously, if you listen to the podcast, and the see the references to it, and all the little Easter eggs, that the term everybody uses now, and it's a good story. It's a good. I
was thinking about the other day, like just because of like modern Bond, especially. Honor Majesty Service is one of the few, like, and one before it were like the best looking ones, but the modern ones have been so. I mean, ever since Deakins did Skyfall, like they've been them. And there's a sequence at the opening of No Time to Die, that like heist at the beginning where like they do that magic hour upside down shot that right side up on the side of the building. I gotta watch that sequence. It's so cool.
And didn't I kind of go with the motorcycle jump? Didn't I kind of like?
You had a visceral reaction.
Yeah, it's just really it's always I feel like when such a genre, capital G film, I always feel like should I put this on a top 10 list? The whole trying to be.
I'm gonna give you a spoiler, Ted, as just with your Old Henry one. This is in my top 10 as well.
Wow! So kudos to you, Shane, and I adore this film, and I think it really ranks high with.
Well, with genre films, I mean, obviously, when you say Bond, are you're going to put superhero films in your top 10?
Am I?
I mean,
don't know.
you're going to put a science fiction film in your top 10.
Yes.
So I'm assuming.
No, I feel
Spider-Man and Dune are both in a top 10. If you made a traditional top 10, there would be several genre films in there.
Yeah, I really would really be curious if I sat down
And
really
Bond
make a
would be in
solid
your top
10.
10 this year for sure. If you made a traditional top 10.
That's a really.
You actually, Aaron, you're right, because I've been known. Remember in the past, I've done top 10s. I've been maverick with it.
Yeah.
Number one year was Apocalypto,
which was extraordinary.
Yeah, and another year, number one was Serenity. And that was
my number.
That's
a
right
fan
there.
favorite, yeah.
Is bucking the trend. Right
Well,
But
there.
I think like this year, if you put Card Counter number 1, if you made a traditional top 10, I don't think a lot of people could complain about that not being worthy of that spot.
I think this is
It's
really
a very good film.
I think this is really astute, Smith, just because I was thinking of the top 5 argument, top side one as first song from High Fidelity argument. Why don't you pick Smells Like Teen Spirit? Why don't you pick Beethoven?
Yeah, I think we
There
all
is
do that.
there
with
is
top
a
10.
methodology to top 10 lists
And,
that we've all
we
accepted.
talked earlier about how being in a not necessarily a small market, but a smaller market, we wind up not necessarily seeing everything. But let's say, for instance, we did live in New York instead of this, we're going to make decisions based on our time, what we could see. So we're still not going to be able to see
Which we're still doing in this market, too.
Exactly. And I mean, you could seek this out. Ted, I know that some black market channels where if you wanted a bootleg of something, you could get it.
I'm bleeping all this out.
Oh, yeah. Well,
No,
but you
fine.
could. I mean, you could honestly find a way to see most of these films that we haven't been able to see. And we just choose not to. We're curating our top 10 before we even see any of these films. So to not put genre films on there, I think would kind of be a mistake. But we are going to try. Nobody wants to have 10 genre films on there. And even if Shang-Chi and Black Widow and Suicide Squad were 4 of your 5 top favorite movies, you wouldn't put all those in your top 10.
Oh, man, I didn't put Suicide Squad on my list. That would be high up. Ooh, shit. Whoops.
I know. I liked Suicide Squad, but I don't think it would be in my top 20. I did have a good time with it. And with the exception of Spider-Man, it would be my favorite superhero in quotes.
I think I would have put it in between Old Henry and Mitchell, maybe behind Mitchell's and Machines versus Machines.
Really?
So it would have been 12.
Well, you had a good time with it then.
Oh, I did.
I did too. I thought it was just really dumb fun. I had a good
very
time
dumb fun.
with it.
But James Gunn's character, I'm looking forward to Peacemaker too. But
yeah, without a doubt.
Ted, what's your next one?
We've already kind of gone over this one. Most baffling artsy-fartsy film. Wham. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to be negative by saying baffling. I'm just saying, ooh, hit scratcher. This is really cool and interesting, and it's artsy-fartsy, but I liked it. But I just thought,
did think about it afterwards, though.
I
It
would
wasn't
put that-
something that you could just put down when you were finished with it. Later, you were thinking, well, I don't know if that comes to a satisfying end to the story. And I know that was Shane's problem with Green Knight too, where you're just like, the story.
I love how I don't have to say my criticisms of these. Smith
Well,
will say
we've
it for
talked
me.
about these things,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I kind of remember that, having a similar conversation with Green Knight.
Lamb, I feel like I was missing something. I've talked to other people who made me feel like I think I was just missing something.
well, what's interesting was that night I went in to see it. I thought, typically on a weeknight with a film like this, I'll be the only one in there. Even though I want Showplace to make money, I'm always glad to be in there by myself because there's no phones, no people talking, no people going, "What the heck is this?" So, but also these 3 college guys.
What did that man say?
Yeah, we ain't never been to Venice, Italy, have we?
What the hell are you guys talking about?
People talking in the
Out
background,
loud,
and especially
making
with a
comments
movie
on the
like
film.
Lamb, if someone's talking behind you, it's super
It looks awful
distracting.
cold there.
You can get away with that in Spider-Man.
So, 3 college guys come in, buy tickets. They go to Lamb. I'm like, oh no, because I'm sorry. I guess I'm profiling, but I'm thinking they're gonna get in there. They're gonna eat, drink, and talk.
Your
and,
age profiling?
I guess I am. I'm
Eat, drink, talk, vape.
and I'm just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it was amazing. And they stick to the credits. Didn't hear a peep out of them. I looked up at them. I said, "What do you guys think about this?" Go, man, I'm gonna Google the fuck out of this when I get home.
You know what's funny is you told this episode on this story on another
Oh, did
episode,
I?
and you wouldn't drop an F-bomb there.
I know.
But you did now.
I had to. Well, that's college guys. I'm profiling them. So
I don't use that word. I don't think,
Oh,
that's,
I'm
the,
sorry.
I don't think that's the word you mean.
Oh, I know.
I don't think that word means what you think it means.
I know.
In this regard.
I'm sorry. I'm being judgmental, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah.
A bias.
What's
or-
next category, Ted?
Oh, next category. Okay, how about Peter Jackson's new career continues? His new career continues. The Beatles Get Back. I put that on there because I know it's not. It's a thing of itself. It's not. It's a
Well, I think very distinctly just because of the episodes.
yeah. But after it's like The Hobbit, Lovely Bones. It's like he seems like not be getting back in gear again. I mean, Heavenly Creatures is one of my all-time favorite films. To see him work on this World War One documentary and then do this, I think, man, he's found his niche. Maybe this is where he needs to start focusing most of his career on and doing this kind of stuff. But,
Those 2 films were, I think, were things that he really was interested in doing. Obviously, the Beatles thing, that's his favorite band. He was really taken with, those films from World War One and trying to clean that up. And plus, like you said in that podcast that you were referencing earlier when we spoke earlier,
His
Shane,
WTF episode.
is that he is really interested in technology. And so being able to use new technology to bring these old films and clean them up and make them presentable on even at the largest format, something that's close to his heart. That's really a labor of love, a passion to
Is it a labor of love of his, or is it a labor of love of his special effects company that he owns?
But did he sell it? I thought he sold it.
They did sell it. They did sell it.
But we've forgotten. This is kind of a throwback to something he did early on in his career. It didn't get a theatrical American release.
Oh, that's a good call.
It's called like Silver Dog. The Silver.
This is you're talking about Peter Jackson's Forgotten Silver.
Forgotten Silver. Had to find it on DVD. It came out on DVD in the American market. I think it was TV. I think it was New Zealand television.
This is a really good call, Ted.
And it's a whole fabrication of early silent films, the history of early silent films that never existed. But he makes it. If you watched it without knowing it, you go, "Oh, this is real stuff." And it's really good, really early on. One of my favorites of his earlier career. So I think this is in continuing that on in a way.
Smith, you want to continue on with your list? Are we up to number 10?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am on 10 now. Together, which I know Ted referenced. It's a really, really nice. I don't want to say romantic comedy because that just gives you an impression that you shouldn't really get. It's just a standard comedy, but it has a lot of heart. Really extraordinarily charming, really great film. I liked that quite a bit, and it definitely fell between the cracks. I don't know what audience there would be for this movie, but I really liked it.
You guys both really seem to be pushing out.
If you have a heart, you like comedies.
Last time I checked,
you like relationship comedies. Number 9, Belfast.
Number 9. Oh, Belfast.
Kenneth Branagh.
I haven't seen Belfast. I want to do before.
How did you miss that? I'm really surprised.
I thought it goes to your Many Saints of Newark, where I thought I was going to stay on a lot longer, and I think it's going to come back, obviously, because it's going to get some nominations. But
you would expect that, but I know this year they're trying to actively nominate more mainstream films because they're trying this thing again where they're trying to get more viewers.
They can never wrangle in the Academy to do. They nominate younger Academy members to do something like this, but it's also be better with representation too. But
I think that we all agree. I'm sure we do. The Academy Awards is the one award show that matters, and to try and change things just to get more viewers really seems counterintuitive. If you're the classic, if you're the baseline for everyone to say this, we're going to compare our award show to this one, you should just do what you do best. And
didn't you and I have the argument about they should go back to 5?
Of course they should. Yeah, I agree completely. But then of course you don't get Dune, probably doesn't get a nomination, or Spider-Man, which I don't think.
Or you just make up for just by freaking nominating Dark Knight in the first place and sticking with 5.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, Belfast. What did you think about the usage of Van Morrison?
I love Van Morrison, and so it's not even really a fair question to me, but the first couple times Van Morrison's song comes on, I'm like, oh, that's Van. And then I recognize that it's going to be a theme, and then I'm like, I'm in the bag for
Was
this.
Van Morrison the composer of it, or is it just...
No, it's needle drops. And what's so interesting is that it's just...
his name's on the poster, I think, isn't it?
I think he has a music by credit.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets a composer.
I don't think I can't remember the instrumental parts, if there's any instrumental parts in it. Maybe I'll have to, if I watch it again, but the Van Morrison, it's just, as opposed to like a P.T. Anderson or a Tarantino film, it's just every song was Van Morrison. I probably goes, I'm going to name drop Bob Dylan again, because Bono said, like, Dylan has a song for every period of your life. Probably Van does too.
Probably. That makes sense.
And you can just go cherry pick what you can to match the scenes in the Belfast. I can make a little sidebar on Belfast, a little sentimental family sidebar, and I think about Christmas and family and stuff like that. There's a scene in Belfast the whole family goes to see. Well, I would say Kenneth Branagh is about my age, basically. So he's doing stuff in Belfast similar to things that I experienced in Evansville, believe it or not. And one of them was the whole family went to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and the whole family gets into it. And it's just a joy to see that, because my whole family got into it, so I had to drive in, and we were so taken by it. And the Sally Ann Howes, the romantic female lead in the film, who just recently passed away. She plays a character called Truly Scrumptious. There's a song called Truly Scrumptious. And we made a cake, and Dad had it put Truly Scrumptious on the cake when we gave it to Mom one year for her birthday or Christmas or something. So I just like that. And of course, we get to see Kenneth as a little kid read Thor. And it was, as we know, we see a meta scene because he goes on to direct the first Thor movie. So that's kind of cool. And there's some other really cool little things that happened in that movie.
Well, there was a lot of that,
and bigger issues too.
With it, most of it being filmed in black and white, and he uses an interesting aspect ratio. I think it's 1:6:6. He's reaching for something that, and of course, like you say, you're Kenneth Branagh's age, so you feel that internally. We're obviously a little bit younger than that, but I think it still plays
that's universal.
Well. It is absolutely universal. I mean, it played just as well for me, and maybe, honestly, I have to be honest, the Van Morrison usage probably had something to do that. Maybe Shane doesn't like it at all. He was like, I don't know what you guys saw in that film.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Number 8, Mitchell's vs. Machines. We've already discussed that.
We didn't even talk about the modern media critique of the Google and Facebook. I mean, from the first trailer alone, I was like, "Holy, that seems like a movie that's got a finger on the pulse of something."
Well, the first trailer I thought was a little zany, like they were cutting in too many of the just gags.
Sure,
but I mean, you're selling
you
an
expect
animated
that from a
feature
Sony release anyway, even Lord Miller,
a modern audience, a general audience, and so. But as far as animated films, I thought this was a really good year for animated films. I liked Encanto quite a bit. Ray and the Last Dragon. There were some other good films, but Mitchell's vs. Machines was just really, and it has, just as with the best animated films, a child can watch this and enjoy it on just a level where it's just, I'm enjoying the gags, the sight gags, the humor of it, the silliness of it. But then it's got so much more.
You are a parent.
I am a parent.
But is it that you said you guys? So this is the same creative team behind the Spider-Verse movie?
They're producing.
Studio, producers, director, what?
It's always hard to know what, and I think they're even executive producers, so you don't even know.
But you feel
they may showed up on set, yelled at 2 people, and left.
Their fingerprints are all
because
over the
I mean
film,
I'm still Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie is still bouncing around in my head still to this day. How if I can use the word amazing, yeah.
They're great animation producers, much as directors. Yeah. I mean, go back all the way to Clone High. So
I need to check into this more.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I know that we all sometimes, and clearly I watch more animated features than you guys do because I am a parent. But we kind of have blind spots for certain genres.
Yeah, if Clifford turned to be a Citizen King of animation, I know, but if it did, you'd have to tell me that because I was ignoring.
Well, I will not tell you that. But
because it is not true.
I think Encanto is definitely totally watchable.
I do want to see Encanto.
Modern Disney done best. It's very solid. I think you would also enjoy that one. And Lin-Manuel Miranda songs in that as well. Really very good. I think you would enjoy that. If you're only going to see a couple, I'd kind of recommend those two. So I'm at number 7, which is Malignant. And I know there are going to be some people that watch that movie and think that, it's not a great film. And I'm not sure that it is a great film.
Ted, you didn't see it?
No, I mean, it's one of those horror films. I was like,
I saw it on HBO Max.
I think initially it was like another horror film, but then I saw our friend Lucas on Facebook see some of the endings just off the rails, and I'm like, ooh, okay, this sounds. And then then the director being involved, I thought, okay, then I don't know if I even talked to you, Aaron, about it, but I was like, should I go see this in the theater before it's gone? And then by the time it was gone, I was getting ready to see it, so I'm gonna have to catch up to it.
It's got such a strong modern giallo / De Palma thing going for it. I mean, Sisters is a real reference for it, but I mean, I thought the film was kind of nasty towards some of its characters, and that just and then
it's mildly gratuitous at times too. So it's not a perfect film, but I thought it was really watchable. And I think part of the reason you didn't get to see it, it was the reason he did see it. And I think HBO Max killed that movie. Unfortunately, it just didn't do anything at the box office because the people that either wanted to see James Wan movie, they want to see a movie called The Conjuring, so they're only going to come out for sequels. And then there's another group that just so decided to watch that on HBO Max instead. So it really just tanked, and it's kind of an overlooked gem. I think that if you watched, one mainstream horror film this movie, because it is a mainstream horror film, but it's kind of a nuts mainstream horror film. You're not going to get a lot of mainstream horror films that have this level of just
one of my favorite films of a year ago, last year, was Possessor. That would be my top 10. And so I'm open to
I don't know if that's mainstream as much.
Yeah, this is. I mean, there's some elements that's mainstream about Possessor, but
this is a Warner Brothers movie.
There's a lot. It's checking off a lot of boxes, mainstream boxes. This one is.
So I think you should definitely check that out if you get an opportunity.
Oh no, I'm planning to.
And this would be an odd double feature. The one I liked, and this is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Spider-Man: No Way Home. Just the second best cinematic experience I had all year. I saw it with not a huge crowd, but a good crowd.
Ooh, and all three saw it together.
In the meantime, I've seen parts and pieces and segments dozens of times.
I got a feeling it works really well with
sold out crowds, and I actually go in there at times just to see scenes again. Obviously, the scenes where the two spoilers, where the other two Peter Parkers show up, and it plays really, really well. Audiences audibly gasp or just like go, ooh, and giggle.
It's funny because I heard it described as like, as soon as they announced the villains are coming in, you knew this was happening, and yet it still plays as a surprise.
Yeah. Well, and maybe some people are surprised.
And of course, the most amazing, use that word again, the most amazing.
Is there the most spectacular? Is there a web of involved?
My sister, who has not seen one MCU movie, and I don't think she ever wanted to see an MCU movie, she went with the family. I had to miss that family outing. I wish I had been there. And then I think Erin, your aunt, and she hasn't seen an MCU movie. She went with the kids,
and she hasn't seen like a Sony movie either.
I don't think she probably even knew what Spider-Man was or meant. She just had a good time. It's a crowd pleaser.
Why is this? Again, it's like what's the William Goldman?
Nobody knows anything.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like why this one works. And
you've been making a big deal about this, and I think there's something about people can infer backstory behind a movie if it's done right, or or it may not be needed even.
I don't think you need it. There are so many Easter eggs for fans that you can just gloss over. You don't need that to have a cohesive storyline. And I think for a general audience, it's just this character goes through these events. There's a heartbreaking message at the end.
I had to sell a friend on it saying that in terms of Marvel movies, I was like, this is the best tearjerker ending since Endgame. Well,
okay, here's the problem that I have with that, though, for a general audience. The broken necklace. Like, if you don't recognize what the significance of that in that last sequence, it's not going to have the same effect as if you did.
There are some insular stuff.
So there's so many things that I think really make you appreciate that more if you have a lot of the backstory. But apparently it plays just straight across the board without having any sort of backstory about any of these characters, any of the villains, any of that. It just works for a general audience.
Yeah,
Pig was my number 6.
What was
1,
number
2, 3,
6?
4, 5. No, Pig was my number 5. So I know that you also like that quite a bit. I don't think Ted has seen that yet.
I still have to do my... I'll go through mine really fast. Old Henry is number 10. No Time to Die is number 9. Pig is number 8.
Fair enough.
I am excited, Ted, for you to see this just because this movie is not what you expect it to be. I was thinking like dour Nicolas Cage mourning a pig or something like that, and it is not that. Number 7... waiting for you guys' reaction to this. I can move this back and forth. I still want to, but for now, this is where it's at. The Matrix Resurrections.
Well, I know that Ted thought it was unnecessary, and I don't know if I could disagree with it.
We don't
honestly.
want to ruin. Ted still has his.
I'm glad you liked it, but I also think that you were kind of a bigger fan of
I'm a
the
big
Matrix
Wachowski
universe.
fan. I'm a big
the
Matrix fan.
Wachowskis.
I'm a big apologist for the sequels. I think one of the reasons I've said this many times before. One of the things I love about the second sequel is how it inverts the one narrative, the Judeo-Christian Christ thing of the first one, and this one's ending does it even better. And I've talked to some friends. There's an argument about the meta first half versus the kind of mythology second half, and I still haven't figured out the mix between that. The action maybe has been better in the other movies, but it's still it's a fun movie about getting older.
I need to watch it again. I'm a big I'd see the first one again for the first time.
You said since like '99.
Since
it's like theater.
In the theater.
Jeez.
Saw it, AMC brought it back as a fan favorite film, and surprised how much I really enjoyed it. So I got kind of hyped up for this new one. I wanted to watch 2 and 3 before it happened, but I didn't get a chance to.
I wanted to get the Animatrix in, watch only part of it.
And I was a little dozy that night, and then get my nap in before I go and see it.
You know what? You if you were to write a review of something, don't put as a disclaimer at the beginning, I was dozy at the beginning.
I know that's and that's sometimes it's getting older.
Expectations and doziness.
Yes, exactly.
My number 6 was Spider-Man, so we just got through that. So.
But my next category, biggest disappointment, Nightmare Alley. We talked about that,
right?
And here's the out of left field film, especially showing in Evansville, was Red Rocket. We talked about that off the bat. Really didn't need them.
Okay. Again with the
2 of them.
Again,
the Matrix Resurrection, like we talked about, and then Ghostbusters Afterlife. I should say something about Ghostbusters. I need to say something about that. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you on the Matrix thing. As much as I think I brought this up to a friend. I'll spoil this happily. Like it opens with a character saying to someone else in the meta section. Warner Media is forcing you to make a sequel to your Matrix trilogy. Like forcing. It's a line in the movie. So maybe you have
and I'm just I don't try to be negative again. It's just like did we really need them? But that said, I enjoyed both of them actually.
Okay.
I was entertained by them. But here's the Ghostbusters problem. Of course, I think everybody's bored with my theory what they should have done with the franchise after the first one. I won't go into that. But with this one, they were sort of maybe going something similar to what I thought they always should do, but they were going to a whole new aspect with new kids, new generation, kind of a new Ghostbusters for this era and for these kids and this generation. That's cool. But then they had to go rely back on the old tropes of the first two. And
really the first one. That was an issue.
And and then they brought, and when I spoiler alert, when the old guys show up, it's so unspectacular. It's not even done well. You want that moment to just like hit you in the head and go, yeah. I'm just like,
I had a conversation with my brother and someone else I talked to about this where I gave my, I don't know if I was really sour on it. Both of them had so much joy from this movie. And I felt like such a sourpuss, telling them.
Yeah, and I like I said, I don't want to be negative about it. I just wish, for my purpose, for me personally, I wish they had decided to go one way or the other. But they by compromise, by going with two kind of aspects of it, it kind of compromised the whole film for me.
What I think is interesting, and I've noticed this, is that those of us who like the first 2/3, like the new characters, Paul Rudd character, obviously the kids, and feel like the conclusion feels a little tacked on, pretty heavy-handed. Although it is, it's fan service, but other than, you get to see these guys on the screen busting ghosts again, it just felt like a little, just fan service is exactly what it was. But the people that necessarily like that ending felt like it really worked and it brought them a lot of joy. Probably didn't like the first 2/3. They wanted more of that.
You think that's the dividing line?
I do. At least the people that I've talked to, it really falls in those two camps. People that really like the ending are people that like the setup, most of the setup.
I'm ambivalent on both camps, but I say like Carrie Coon being in all the movies.
And ambivalent, I think to me that's why it compromised and hurt it. Speaking of which, it's kind of interesting. I just thought of this when you said that. When the original Spider-Mans show up, it's great. When these guys show up, it's like, to me, so
Yeah,
that's kind
both
of
in a Sony movie too.
Yeah,
It is a little botched, I thought.
Well, this gets to this is maybe another full podcast, but I don't know what fan service means anymore. Because literally, it's like, are you trying to cumulatively like add up to all the narrative that has come before this and make it satisfying to anyone who's watched all the story?
Actually,
or are you playing to member berries and nostalgia bombs?
Right.
Member berries and nostalgia bombs. Standing behind you, rubbing your shoulders. Remember this? Remember this? Remember Chewbacca?
Well, it's a funny thing. It's fan service, and this is what I wanted to see about Spider-Man a few minutes ago. There was this girl at work, and she just could not wrap her head around. Michael Keaton plays Batman 2 times, and then Val Kilmer goes on. Well, I don't understand this. It's a different Batman. I don't understand. And she couldn't understand that this is the same universe, same storyline. Just they had to get a different actor to play him, but it's the same, narrative going on. And just like the James Bond films originally, Roger Moore is basically playing Sean Connery's part. But
I don't think George Reeves is available for the next Superman.
So she was really having a problem with that. And I wonder now, I hope she's seen Spider-Man, and I hope that she can now finally say, oh, we can make this work. And now all the different characters.
I wonder, though, if that works for her, this new Spider-Man, because it seems to work for audiences that don't necessarily, that have problems with
She's a civilian
logic.
watcher. She's not a
civilian.
She's not a genre person.
She's a straw woman. So. What's your...
I got a few more here. And my biggest surprised me. I wish I'd seen you on Sunday night, of course, because I was just like...
You just saw this?
Just saw it Sunday night. Didn't expect it. I was going out of just almost like perfunctory, just to like get it out of my way, because I don't think I'd ever...
Wait, what is it, Ted?
I'm burying the lead. I'm okay. Purposely doing that. It's a film that...
Preamble.
Buildings tension.
It's the film I think I would never get around to if I didn't see it in the theater, because it's a third of a trilogy so far, The Kingsman. I am shocked, really, how much I got. I just really was moved by this one.
Are you a fan of the first two?
I went to saw the first one. It's a comic book related, based movie.
Mark Miller and Dave Gibbons.
I try to see all those little movies. It was kind of fun. It had kind of a really fun spin and spoof and satire on James Bond films and other spy elements. Great cast: Mark Strong, Michael Caine. Enjoyed it a lot. Colin Firth. But the second one, I did not. I felt like I was just going through the motions watching it. I was not really, and it just kind of felt dead in the water. So by this time, I'm going, a third one, really? Okay. I go into it, and I was really got a kick out of it. As much as people get moved by 1917 or Paths of Glory, there's World War One stuff in here that moved me.
Wow.
I know. I mean, it's not Kubrick. And that's what the critics were, I think, attacking. It's not doing well critically. The tonal shifts in it. I didn't mind the tonal shifts. I think he balanced it out okay. But this is Matthew Vaughn, right?
Okay, yeah. In Matthew, I mean, Layer Cake,
First Class.
I would really love to see what you guys think of this, but I don't know. I mean, it may be one of those really weird, strange, unique things with me that it just really worked on me. Expectations were so low; they were in the gutter, So maybe that's another thing that helped it. But I was just really got a kick out of it. I got two more. Curious Evolution. I just thought it was interesting, the Marvel movies, along with the Columbia movies, the trajectory. We go from Black Widow, all in 1 year. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Venom 2, Eternals, and then we end up with Spider-Man. What a kind of up and down, interesting way, because I've heard mixed reviews. Some people just really go, "Oh, Eternals is a bomb or a turd," and then Venom 2 is like, it's goofy.
Well, it's also the experiment of discounting Venom. This is the MCU upping up their output.
Yeah, even though we get the little tag with the Venom. That was
yeah.
So so I thought that was an interesting evolution. And my last of my observations, tweaks, marketing, the TED Awards, the film I was most fear of watching an actor act in a film was Cry Macho.
Oh, wait.
Well, it's just
because Eastwood's going to fall over.
Yeah, I know it's terrible.
He looks brittle. He looks brittle in a lot of scenes.
Okay, but you guys understand that film is filmed months before and edited later, and like they know he's safe. It's not a live representation.
I'm 63 years old. I do realize that. This is humor. It's called humor. I'm trying to be funny.
Take responsibility for that because humor has to be funny.
Well, I'm just a fact. Well, it's just I'm watching it. Well,
there are scenes where he punches another person in this movie, and it just looks odd. He really can't throw a punch any longer, but they're asking him to do so, or he's asking himself to do so.
He has to put his foot on a stoop. The way he does it, you're almost like, don't fall over, please don't fall over, because
you're just saying that the movie looks fake, or his casting is fake.
I think you could say that about some of these Liam Neeson movies too, where
they enhance it probably with CGI. I mean,
you would have to,
yeah. So but that said, Aaron, you got a big, you kind of a good take on Cry Macho. You liked it?
No, I did not.
No, but you said you do see another Eastwood film.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in that terms,
absolutely. And I mean, honestly, Cry Macho is better than some of his recent output. I mean, really? I think that he's a working director, and if he's willing and able, he should be able to make a film every year until he just can't anymore.
Smith, what was your next one?
I did Pig. We're gonna do Summer Soul and Let It Be. I mean, Get
Back. We haven't got back to Summer Soul. Yeah.
Summer Soul, Let It Be.
Get Back.
I want to put Get Back. I just recognize that I did that wrong, and I did it wrong again. Get Back and Summer Soul. I really, really enjoyed both of those films. And I think it's partially that I'm at the age now where these cultural artifacts just existing for all this time and then getting an opportunity to see them finally really worked for me. But of course, as a big music fan, seeing these unseen sets from Sly and the Family Stone and Nina Simone, I think really, really worked for me. Plus, just the time period. I mean, that's literally the Summer of Love and
Summer of Woodstock. So wait, they say this in there, and I'm curious if it's true. Like that festival none of it survived really. Like there's no recordings really got out. Or people, is it really not that well known?
I'm going to be honest. I was unfamiliar with all of it, and I mean, there's been times in my life where I seek out festival recordings. So I mean, I've seen Woodstock, Texas Pop Festival. There's even some footage of the Soda Pop Festival from Poseyville. So, I mean, there's a period of time where I sought those things out, and that footage just wasn't available. Now, the footage from Peter Jackson's Get Back, some of that did circulate, but obviously not 8 hours of it. And so you just got
waiting for that torrent to pop up, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. And to be honest, I think, we talked about that in the episode. I would watch all of that, and I think I would watch all 3 weekends of Summer of Soul if Questlove just said, well, here's the director's edition and you're going to get every note played. And, I think that would still, it's almost as if you were attending that festival. And yes, both of these, specifically Summer of Soul, is indebted to Michael Wadley's Woodstock, which I think is probably one of my all-time favorite films. So, I mean, that was really something that was, important to me, and I liked it quite a bit. But both of those films easily top 5 this year. And part of it is, the fact that the cultural artifact portion of it. I mean, that was just something that, if it had come out in that time, I don't know. Well, there's another famous documentary. It's called Watt Stacks, and it was made in the 70s, and Isaac Hayes and Richard Pryor plays. And that's been available this whole time. And I bet most people are unfamiliar with it because it just doesn't. Familiar with it. It's not high profile, but Summer of Soul comes back and it gets this full release, and people are aware of it. So it had its moment, and it was great. I really had a good time with both of those. And of course, we already talked about Let It Be, but it was just an amazing feast of just so much of this footage. So I think that I would put those at like 5 and 4, somewhere around there. I had French Dispatch in between the two, but I think that's kind of interchangeable. I do think Wes Anderson made his movie again, and if you're a Wes Anderson fan, as I am, I can't imagine him making a film that I didn't like. I've loved the animated films. I loved Isle of Dogs. I think Fantastic Mr. Fox was terrific, even better than Isle of Dogs. I think he's just a consummate filmmaker, and he's one of my favorites. So French Dispatch, really, really solid. And then I want to talk about my number 2, and I'll leave my number 1 to you because I think it was your number 1. And it was also Ted's number 1. But my number two,
Ted's film as his
film. My number two was The Power of the Dog, the Jane Campion film. I saw it just recently, within the last couple of weeks, maybe. And I'm still thinking about it. It's been haunting me for a little while. And I think that, obviously the cast is, Jesse Plemons is a star in the making. Cumberbatch it's his finest performance. I really, really fell in love with him as an actor because he plays
This was the other movie with Thomas and McKinnon, is it?
Thomas and McKinnon, and she plays a small role,
yeah.
But when she shows up, she's just really cute. Mm-hmm. You really like when she has she only has maybe 4 or 5 lines in the entire movie,
right?
But it's great. And of course, Kirsten Dunst.
It's such a slow burn, and whenever it starts to click in and like let you know what it's been the entire time, it's effective. I'll give it that.
I wasn't even, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I think initially you get an impression from the Cumberbatch character where this is going to go. When you find out where his character, what his motivation is and where his cruelty comes from, you kind of come to have a different perspective on that character. And then later when it changes again and you realize, you hadn't been looking at that character or the Cody Smith McPhee character.
I was going to say he's great in this.
Yeah, of course. It was just so good. And then of course, just the way that this is framed, I loved the set of that ranch, all those beautiful windows. And, they mentioned a couple different times, like stay out of the cold or it's cold in here, but it felt cold, like inside that huge ranch, it felt cold. And then of course, I mentioned this when we talked about it. I did. I didn't realize that was Johnny Greenwood music until the movie was over.
Did you realize Johnny Greenwood and Spencer too?
Oh yeah, well, Spencer sounds like Johnny Greenwood. Like that's when you expect Johnny Greenwood.
Doesn't.
Power of the Dog does not, but it's it's just as powerful. So I think Power of the Dog it may be a little bit overlooked, but
I don't think so. I think it's high up on a lot of people's Oscars.
It's been high up on a few lists, but I've seen it left off a few lists too, and I think some people have some problems with maybe the length, and also that but I wonder some of this is just real subtle. And maybe that doesn't play as well. I don't know, but it really worked for me. And with the exception of all of our number one movies, it was the thing that I think that I've thought about the most.
Okay, winding down my list. Number 5, Come On, which I think Mike Mills is one of our best filmmakers, American filmmakers. Number 4, Bo Burnham's Inside, which I guess we have a debate on format on this because I have seen this on no other list. I think I've seen it on some TV lists, but it's a comedy special, but it is a deeply cinematic comedy special. Like it is, and it was a self-made in someone's apartment, deeply personal. It's the best piece of pandemic art.
Yeah, it was very effective. I also watched it during the pandemic. I'm sure you did too.
Yes, and it's hard to watch, especially the end.
Yeah, but also definitely funny at times. It's not as if it's a comedy special without comedy.
But you're saying it's such a unique piece of work that it elevates beyond the comedy special.
Well, comedy specials are high. I mean, we're living in the year where Richard Pryor concert film got inducted into the national...
but that was released as a film and marketed as a film and labeled as a film.
This is up there, that level. This is...
Oh, I'm not saying label. I'm not saying level, but what if is it eligible for an Oscar?
It's been on TV lists. I haven't seen it on anyone else's film list, which I don't understand exactly the reasoning, but because it's such a tight watch. But we're talking about a stand-up special where maybe it's a fake moment, but it felt real to me. I think you could argue maybe it's a fake moment, but he's filming himself and he just breaks down filming himself and has to start over at the end.
So are you? Are you like maybe like just like we just mentioned a minute ago?
It is such a piece of idiosyncratic creativity that there's not much to compare it to.
It's like the Twin Peaks third season or the Get Back. It's
no, because I mean I get what you're saying. It's a different format that might come into the list. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what to compare this to. Like the things that come into my mind aren't like Raw or something like that. I'm thinking like a Chris Marker film or something.
I'm not trying to compare it to those two. I'm just trying to be like devil's advocate, like say, well, it transcends its label, what it's labeled as, It transcends the comedy.
I don't
special.
think the label matters here.
Yeah,
I
I know, and that's
it's such a piece of creativity
and that's what I
that,
feel
like, if you have a reaction, you think it's just a comedy special. Because I think a lot of people have condensed it down to its album and its songs, and like its songs have taken off more than the special itself.
I mean, well, to me, without seeing it, I'm thinking, well, this kind of makes me think of Twin Peaks third season or Get Back.
Well, Bo Burnham started out, first off, Bo Burnham, Eighth Grade's a great film. He's a director unto himself. He started out as a YouTube person who made his name filming himself. So this is a natural progression for him.
Maybe it's
into its own distinct.
It's a whole new the YouTube whatever, TikTok and Twitter and all this stuff.
It does feel like a YouTube movie in a good way, but it's, I mean, it's like a YouTube star 20 years on, and with his filmmaking chops having an upgrade, he gets trapped in it's like the Nightmare on Elm Street house he got trapped in. Like it literally is like a historical, or it's a filming location of a horror movie. It's kind of hard watching some parts.
I think the reason it's not on a lot of lists, the reason it's not on my list, again, it may be format, I don't know. But if we're considering that as a film, then
I think Bo Burnham is follow up to Eighth Grade. Makes sense for me as this film.
Okay,
that's where
I also loved Eighth Grade. So
yeah, my number 3, my next to our musicals, Tick Tick Boom. It's continuing the Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm completely unfamiliar with the show. There's a sequence in the middle of this that uses a bunch of Broadway stars then and now. And I barely recognized any of them, so I'm not a Broadway person, but this is written in a way that's like takes the original show and makes it cinematic, but also updates it with the knowledge of its main character, ostensible author, original author's death, in the movie being a ticking literal, in its title, ticking clock towards death. It's just really touching on top of being a great musical.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with the songs, but I also thought it was touching. And Andrew Garfield, I think, deserves extra recognition.
I've heard people point out, who knew he could sing that well? Just like a great actor suddenly pulls this quiver out of his arrow out of his quiver. So quiver out of his hat. Am I getting it right? My number 2, back to the last episode, West Side Story. I think this is one of our greatest filmmakers making one of his greatest movies in the last 20 years, maybe one of his top films ever. And there's a DJ podcast he did recently, interview with Damien Chazelle, where they talk about how I have a pet theory that Spielberg, the reason Jaws is such a great movie is that it went 100 days, and Spielberg being such a fast shooter that he shoots a lot of his stuff fast and intuitively, but you give him a lot of time, it weeds out some of the bad ideas and makes something a little more integral. So that's where the don't show the monster until 2/3 of the way through the movie is because Josh shot for 100 days. And Spielberg said this is the longest pre-production and rehearsal he's ever had on a movie. And so he was shooting the movie with his iPhone during these rehearsals, and he said he threw out a lot of his approaches and had to redo it. So it's just he redrafted and recreated it. It's just one of our best directors' best movies. I'm startled by it.
I also think we should mention Tony Kushner.
One of America's best playwrights, so the best and the best. And the ways it updates the story without really having to do much and add so much layers to the characters and drama to their conflicts. I get, Ted, why I've run into one other person who had your approach where it's I don't understand why Spielberg's making West Side Story, but yeah. So, and the number 1, I think your film, Smith, you're number 1, Oliver, Dune. Just cinematic, going back to our episode on Dune, David Lean was originally supposed to be the very first director considered for this. This is David Lean doing Dune updated. And
we all watched Dune at the same time, and I think we all left stunned. I think we were paralyzed. We were really anticipating this film, and it did not let us down whatsoever.
I had this is probably going to be my movie of the year, and it was my movie of the year.
Yeah. I also think after that, I kind of reconsidered, and I'm like, well, like Ted said, should a genre movie be my favorite film of the year? And although it has been, for instance, Dark Knight, where I've had genre films as my number 1 film of the year, it's rare, but I think this is definitely the exception. It's that good. And we had that much fun.
I heard the other day someone redo that speech at the end where it was about the meaning of life is not something to be figured out or overcome. It's something to be experienced and to live through. I'm butchering the line, but I was like, damn, that's good writing. And like, I read the first 2 books now, and maybe that's in there somewhere in the books, and it's hard to cherry pick all that stuff out. But like, there's so much going on, so much profundity that then like this still is to be filled out on top of this like cinematically realized universe. By one of our best directors. It's again my top 2 are 2 of our best working directors, but
yeah, that's not unusual. But
that is how good works. That is how quality works.
Anyway, one other mention I want to mention of interesting things and highlights of the year and cinematic, blah, 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 is Tarantino's book, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that needs to be mentioned amongst all the
update from the our episode. You read the hardback. Did you read the Lancer episode?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, the Lancer episode is cool.
Yeah.
It is so. If it's just 1 of 5 he's written, and maybe 1 is in the movie, yeah, it's like it's a half hour.
Did you check the rest of the book? Is there anything else added in the bulk of it?
There's extra stills at the end of
yeah,
it.
is there?
And then there's the Mad Magazine stuff.
He didn't do a new re-edit of the whole book, the novel itself, did he?
I didn't go that.
Okay.
I don't think there is.
Okay.
I doubt there is.
It's bonus material, basically. It's a book. It's the same book.
Yeah, as far as I know,
with extra goodies.
And the worth the price of admission. The Lancer script.
I think I showed you guys. I came across a couple of Lancer comic books in the flea market and a small comic book show. I picked them up.
No, you didn't.
There's like 3. They Gold Key put out 3 Lancer comics, and I picked up 2. I found 2 of them. So.
Jeez Louise. All right, everybody. I guess that's our 2021. Here's to a better 2022. Ted, Smith, thank you guys for being on the podcast.
Anytime.
Yes, and more Richard Lester next time.
Please, more Richard Lester.
Night.
You did that one. You did that one.
I already did it.
You already used that one.
Sorry.
Thanks for listening, everybody.